Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am so excited about making this video for you folks and just continuing the series. Thank you for everybody who asked me to make a part 3, and it took me so long to do it. But here's the good news. I got everything set up and I'm ready to do more of these videos now. I'm really excited about being able to help other folks and to teach more topics. So today we're going to talk about creating the HTML front end for our CrudsList application. We're going to do create and read. So from the CRUD, create, read, update, delete, we're going to do create and read today. And of course, linking that in with our HTML. I thought about making this with React, but before we add any further complication, I'd love to just show you how to do this with HTML, JavaScript, with a little bit of help from jQuery and a library called Ajax. Also, I've made this repository available in GitHub, so if you want to find it in GitHub, just go ahead and check in the description down below, and you'll be able to get that code. Alright, let's do this. Let's knock this thing out. I think we can do it. If we look at line 16 in my code, you can see that we use app.use express static public. So that means Express is going to serve up that public folder. So when I go to my URL in the browser, I hit that public folder, Express is going to serve it up. So let's make that folder. Let's call it public. Looks like we already have it. Cool. Our public folder is there. Now let's add a new file and let's call that index.html. Inside this index.html, I'm going to use a little bit of help from my friend Emmett, which is a really cool plugin that comes with Visual Studio Code built in. And when you use it, it allows you to do a lot of shortcuts to make your life typing code really easy and a lot faster. We'll change this to CrudsList. We'll save it and let's go to the browser. Go to localhost 3000. And we can see at the top here we have our CrudsList title, but we don't have anything on our page. Let's change that. Going back to the code inside the body, I'm just going to toss in an H1. And from this H1, I'll just do CrudsList. Actually, let's make CrudsList capitalized. CrudsList. Cool. Let's go back and refresh. Now we got things going the way we want it. I'm going to make this a little bit fancier. Let's throw in our friend Bootstrap. Right here in the head, I'm going to drop in that code. And I'm going to format my code right now, so things are formatted nicely. And I just dropped in Bootstrap and I dropped in the optional theme from bootstrap.com. I'm using Bootstrap 3. You can use Bootstrap 4 if you like. But let's just see the immediate difference that we get from using Bootstrap. So things look a little bit nicer. We get a different font. But with that being said, let's now jump in and add our application code for the rest of the UI. So I'm going to take this H1 out and I'm going to use Emmet combined with my HTML. So I'm going to do div.container. So div is the element that I want. Dot meaning class. Container. Then I use greater than, which symbolizes a child. So I do div.container, and then I'll do, inside of there I do div.row. Inside that row I want a div.column-md of 12. And inside there I want another div with the class of Jumbotron. Don't worry if this seems like a lot at first. You'll get used to it if you want to check out Emmet. I'll put a link down in the description below. So that just saved me a lot of time typing. Now I can put my H1 and we get back to CrudsList. So this is all HTML, but just to give you an idea of what we're doing, and I'll do one more. I get a P and I want the contents of this P, the child, to be a place to sell your stuff. So we got that, and I'm hitting tab to complete. So now I have my text and I have my subtext. So underneath here, I want two columns. So let me get another row, div.row. Inside the div.row and div.col-md-6. I want this to be 2. I want 2 of those so I can do multiply it by 2. And so if you look at it, Emmet is really fantastic with figuring out how you want your stuff to work. So I do that. Now I have 2 on this left hand side. This is going to be the side. We're going to give this an ID. We'll say this one is the items div. Inside this item div, we're going to use another tool to add items from the database. In order to get the code from the database, here's what we need to do. I need to add a script tag. In this script tag, I need to use some JavaScript to get some data from the database. And this is called an Ajax request. We need to do that. And then once we get the data, we need to add the elements or the items to the screen. and the items div. Now, I'm going to use two libraries to help me with this. You could do it with one if you want. I want to use two for right now. From a CDN, meaning a content delivery network, I'm going to pull in two libraries, jQuery and Axios. Now, I am very well aware that jQuery itself has its own Ajax support, and I also know that Axios is just an Ajax library. So, and you can totally just get away with using jQuery or using Axios, but for me, I'm going to do both just for personal preference, really. So I'm going to do a document.ready, and inside here, I'm going to have my function. Inside my function, the first thing I want to do is I want to do my first task here. So let me take this first task, move that up in there. I want to get the data from the database via Ajax. So I want to do axios.get. Where do I want to get it from? Well, I want to do API/all. How do I know it's there? Well, if we look at our API routes, let's look at our routes on the server side. Look at our routes. API/all returns the data from the database. So let's do that. API/all dot then being when the data comes back. We'll say the data, let's say it's response. I'm using an arrow function here. So response.data. That's where my data is going to be in response.data. So what I really want to do is I want to get the items, get element by ID. So get items div. And here, let me close down my little console down there. Get the items div. And from there, I want to append something. And what do I want to append here? Well, here's where I get a little bit of freedom. I'm going to use backticks just in case. I want to append something. But actually, what I know I need to do is I'm going to have to make this a multi-liner. So let me throw some curly braces around it, and it'll all make sense why I want to do that in 1 second. My data will be response.data. That's where the data will be from the server. So for each item that comes back from the server, I want to do this append element. I want to find this thing and I want to append to it. And what do I want to append? Well, I really want to do, just for fun, since P is a block level element, I'm going to append the name. Here, let's see. Let's take to a different line just so we can all see it. I'm going to do append. I'll just say it's the item.name, and we're also going to output the item.price as well. So we do both of these, and we're also going to throw in here this $sign. So now we are going to just append this data. So for each of these, and you know what? I think I can get away with not even using the curly braces here because it's still technically one line. Let's see if we can do this. Go back to the browser, hit a refresh. There we got it. So we have these items that are in our database. I preloaded these items on this computer. So now, if you let's take a quick step back here. Axios.get API/all. So that's sending a request back to the API routes on the server side, and we're hitting this endpoint. We're saying the method is get API/all. So if we look at our code here, we said Axios get. So we got the get here matched with the get that we have here. API/all. So you put those two together, that is going to send an Ajax request via the get method to this endpoint. The endpoint goes to the database, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about, please check out part 2 of this. It goes back to the database and gets the data, sends it back, and here we are on our front end with the data. We are looking so good here. Things are looking up. Now, I wanted to add one more thing. I was hoping to get a form set up for our application, because what I want to do is I want to have my input. So we need 3 inputs because I want to create some data. Let's do 3 inputs. Placeholders we'll set up. We'll say this one is product price or product name, product price. Then we get product category, and we want to add a class. It's not form values, form control. If we do form control, I think that makes our form look really nice. There we go. We got our form control, and we can have a label here and say this is the product name. We say for equals, and we get to say which element it is. We'll say product. Okay, and if we refresh this, looking good, looking great. So we're going to do the same step for all of our form elements. Hold tight. And then finally, we're going to add a button at the end. So we do a button, save, put the button .btn.btn-success. And then there you go. Oh, that didn't put where we want it. That's okay. We're gonna move that in right now. Got save. If you really want to be fancy, we can put an emoji or not. Yeah, there you go. Our save disk. So now if we look, we got our save disk. And now we're really cooking with fire. Our UI is not world class, but when you first start off an application, I love just getting things working first. So I like to do the model of make it work, make it right, make it fast. So now we're just making it work. We'll make it right, meaning refactor what we need to, and make it fast, meaning we optimize later. But first, we start here. Now that we have that working, we just need to add a button listener, an event handler. So let's use jQuery for that. This is why I want jQuery in the building, because jQuery gives me access to this really easily. And now I can just do onClick, throw my function in there. And from here, I need to say Axios. Now post is for create. Put is for update. I like to remember it as P-U-U-P, P-U-U-P, update put. That's how I remember it. And it's API/new. And remember, that's from our request. Then the second part of this, the second parameter is going to be our data. So we need name, price, and category. That's what is needed for our application. So let's do that. So let's get the name. Where did the name come from? Well, it's going to come from the product price element. So we do get element by ID, product price, and then you do .val to get the value. Then here, sorry, this one's wrong. It's product name. Then from here, we're going to jump right into product price .val. And then from here, I'm going to jump into product category .val. Okay, now we got all the values. We have, this is the promise we do .then. I'm not sure what we want to do here, but for now we'll just say console.log of done. But we can also just get the response back. So we can also just, instead of just saying done, we'll do console.log response.data. And let's see what happens. Go back to our app, hit refresh. Let's see if we can add a new product. We have all these things. Let's add. So people are only selling electronics. I want to sell more than electronics. I'm going to sell my jacket. I want it for $10. The category is going to be clothing. We'll hit save. Now let's check out our console. Let's see if there's any errors. No, we get our object back. So now if we want, we can actually, so this worked. But if you notice, the screen did not update. We had to refresh to get the screen to update. Now we see our jacket. If we wanted to, what we could do is take that data and add it to the screen here. Instead of doing this, what we've done here, we can take the same code we have right here. We can use this to add something to the screen. So instead, let's do this. Let's take the data and do items.append. Instead of item here, we're going to do, so instead of item, we will do response data name and response data price, because that's what response data is going to be, the object that we saw in the console, and then that object had a name and a price field. Let's refresh our screen and let's confirm. So our jacket, along with the jacket, I got a cool Michael Jackson t-shirt that I love. Salon product price, this one's $100. Product category, clothing. Let's hit save. Now we got our stuff working here. And of course we could polish the application further to clean up the fields here, but I think this is a good place to stop for now. So here's what we covered so far, or we covered today. Today we did CRUD, the C and the R, so create and read. Here's how we create using post and Axios. Then here's how we read using get with Axios. That goes back to our API routes and it hits one of these things. Again, be sure to watch the other two sections of this application being built up. If you want me to take this further, like saying either A, pretty up the UI, or add other features, please comment down below if you want to see me do this and update it to something like React or deploy it to Heroku, something like that. Let me know. I'm happy to help. Thank you again so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.